Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. Ecclesiastes 9:10. And whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men. Colossians 3:23. Hello everyone, my name is Brandon Correa, and today I'm going to be presenting to you chapter 3 of our textbook, which is Foundations of Individual Behavior. Now, in order for me to explain this chapter and in the end present you with a question, I really need you guys to remember those two verses as I'm going through, as I'm going to tie them back into my presentation. So today I'm going to talk to you about our 4 main points that I gathered from this chapter, which is people and organizations, personality in organizations, attitudes in organizations, and finally, perception in organizations. And as I said, I'm then going to leave you with a question that we can discuss on the discussion board this week. So to begin, people and organizations. Psychological contracts. What are they? They're a person's overall set of expectations regarding what he or she will contribute to an organization and what the organization will provide in return. So what this is what I expect from my employer and what my employer expects from me. And this is unlike any other business contract. It's a psychological contract and it's not written on paper, nor are all the terms explicitly negotiated, which is very interesting. Even though this is a very common thing, it's global and all organizations face the challenge of psychological contracts. And I have an examples of psychological contracts on figure 3.1, which I copied from our textbook if you want to actually go back and look at that as well. Those are just different examples of what we need to be doing and what our employer needs to be doing in order to have that psychological contract. And that goes into the person job fit. A good person job fit is one where the employee's contributions make the inducements that the organization offers. So that means I'm making exactly what the organization wants for what the organization wants to give me. Now, however, our textbook says that this is seldomly achieved because hiring practices are imperfect procedures and they're not always working. And another part is that we are all very unique. For instance, we're all in this comms class, but we're all from different parts of life, and we're not even maybe all studying communication. Well, I'm taking some communication classes. I'm actually getting my master's in public policy. So these are just different points that while we're all in the same class, that doesn't mean we all have the same things to offer. So now that we've talked about people in organizations, I want to talk about personality in organizations. Personality in organizations has a lot of information in it. The Big 5 personality traits, the Myers-Briggs framework, and emotional intelligence. The Big 5 personality traits are agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, extroversion, and openness. And I have figure 3.2 on the PowerPoint for you to look at, where you can see that there's high agreeableness, extroversion, less openness, and there's actually a survey in the end of the chapter where you can go and take it and see where you are on this scale. And this actually leads right into the Myers-Briggs framework, which is the classic work of Carl Jung, which if you've been in communications for a while, you definitely know who this person is. And he differentiates people into 4 general dimensions: sensing, initiating, judging, and perceiving. He then takes them in higher and lower positions and classifies them into 16 different personality categories. Now, this combined with the Big 5 personality traits is how a lot of employers get their employees. I don't know about you, but I've been to several job interviews where I've actually done the interview, it's went great, and then they call me up and they say, we need you to come in and take this survey. So you take the survey, it's about your attitude, personality traits, emotions, which we're going to go to in just one moment, and then that shows if you are a perfect candidate for that position. So as I said, emotion goes right into emotional intelligence, which is known as EQ. And it's the extent to which people are self-aware, can manage their emotions, can motivate themselves, express empathy for others, and possess social skills. Now, this is all very important because you want an employee that can deal with all of the emotions at any point. And so, just as I said that there is a survey for the scale, the Myers-Briggs framework, and emotional intelligence, and the Big 5 personality traits. So if any of you guys have ever applied to Starbucks, you know, as soon as you've done the actual applying, their link comes up and there's a survey, and it has to do with not just your personality traits or your framework, but it has to do with your emotions as well, because they want to know how you're going to react in all situations. So now that we've talked about people in organizations, personality in organizations, we're going to talk about attitudes in organizations. Now, how are attitudes formed? Well, we all know this. There are a variety of forces: our beliefs, our personal values, our personalities. And then also our textbook says that the big five also help shapes our personality, which is how we act in different situations. So we have attitude structure, which is attitudes are usually viewed as stable dispositions to behave towards objects in a certain way. They affect how a person is feeling towards something, and the intention is a component of an attitude that guides a person's behavior. So for instance, the attitude structure would be how I felt, or how we all felt about the previous election. We all had an attitude towards the candidates, whether we liked them, we didn't like them, we just weren't sure. And the way our attitude was is how we voted for them. And that, again, goes right into our beliefs, our personal values, our personalities, and then it goes right into actually attitude change, which is new information that we receive and relevance. So for instance, if you weren't really sure who you wanted to vote for, maybe you were out there looking at the candidates and getting new information to get your attitude towards one candidate or the other. And also relevant. If it's not relevant to me, I might not care. Or, for instance, again, with the election, my husband's in the military, so anything that's going on with the military is very relevant to me, and I'm going to pay attention to. So that's how our attitudes are formed, and it's also formed just like that at work. There are key work-related attitudes: job satisfaction and organizational commitment. Job satisfaction is the extent to which a person is gratified or fulfilled by his or her work. So you're like, yes, this job is awesome, I'm satisfied. And organizational commitment is a person's identification with an attachment to an organization. So right now I work at Chick-fil-A, and I have a bumper sticker on my car that says I love Chick-fil-A, and I have a cow antenna. So these are different attributes that I have that shows that I have organizational commitment. Now, affective mood in organization, there's positive affectivity and negative affectivity, and they're pretty much self-explanatory. Positive is that you're always looking at things from a positive perspective, and negative is those people that you work with that are just generally down and they're always in a really bad mood. So now that we've talked about attitude in organizations, we're going to finish with perception in organizations. Now, there are basic perception process and perception attribution. The basic selective perception is the process of screening out information that we are uncomfortable with or contradict our beliefs. And there's also stereotyping. And I'm sure we've all done it, is stereotype someone at work, which is categorizing or labeling people based on a single attribute. The attribution theory suggests that we attribute cause and behavior based on observations of a certain characteristic of that behavior, which is almost just like stereotyping. Now, the types of workplace behavior are performance behaviors, dysfunctional behaviors, and organizational citizenship. Performance behaviors is how our employers expect us to act. Dysfunctional behaviors are what we do that we shouldn't do, which are absentee and turnover. So we're not coming in, we're quitting, we're going to other jobs, we're just doing whatever we want. So it's detracting from what the original performance is supposed to be. And then finally, organizational citizenship, which also has to go right back to what I was talking about where I have my bumper sticker on Chick-fil-A, is a person's degree of organizational citizenship is the extent of my behavior. So I'm all for Chick-fil-A. So now we talked about people, personalities, attitudes, and perceptions in organizations. I'm going to leave you with a question. My question for this discussion board is, what should our attitudes and perceptions be in organizations according to Ecclesiastes and Colossians, the two verses that I read for you in the beginning of the presentation? And how does our mission as Christians affect our attitude towards all of our employers? So how does it affect our perception, and how does it affect our attitude? Because in the end, what we're supposed to be doing is for God. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to discussing it with you all. Thanks, and have a great night.